Okay, good afternoon and welcome to our next iteration of the Insider Industry Series. We're joined today by my co-host, Kevin Gaudio, who's going to break down a panel discussion on corporate partnerships, which is one of the most fascinating and fantastic aspects of the sports industry. We look forward to your participation today via the Q&A feature during this webinar. So please add your questions and I'll work with Kevin to make sure we get through all the questions throughout this session. Without further ado, Kevin, you're up.
Great. Thank you for the introduction, Dr. Kelly. I also want to thank Benjamin Slider and Shay Decker-Jacoby for helping put all this together. And of course, our four panelists, Aaron Knox, Daniel Solomon, Russell White, and Vanessa Bryan. And I'm sure they can all introduce themselves better than I can. So without further ado, I'd like to have all of you guys go through kind of your background and tell us about your journey and how you got to where you are. And we'll start with Aaron, then go to Daniel, Russell, and Vanessa.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to be here to talk to you all. So my kind of path to get to where I am, I always knew I wanted to work in sports from a pretty young age. After having injury from playing sports, I knew I wanted to keep it in my life. So that's when I kind of set out to only look at sports management programs and ended up at NYU. And through kind of NYU's internship process, I was able to work at an agency and then also a minor league baseball team and then a company called #Sports. So I kind of got to feel out different areas of the industry and what really interested me. And when I was working for the minor league baseball team doing partnerships, I just fell in love with it. I loved the aspect of being able to engage the community and provide unique opportunities for these fans while also helping companies achieve their goals. So that's kind of what caught my eye and made me want to continue forward on this path. And then when I moved back to Los Angeles, I had the opportunity to work at the NFL. And then after that stint was over, I found this Clippers role and it's been wonderful ever since. It's obviously been a unique past year and I was only in office for about 4 months before kind of the world turned upside down, but it's been really cool to be a part of kind of the new world of sponsorship during all of this. And I'm just really grateful to have wonderful partners on my side that have been very patient and understanding of everything that's going on. So it's definitely a really rewarding aspect of the industry.
Yeah, and I'll echo what Aaron said. Thank you all for having me as well. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate being able to come back and speak to all of you and be on this panel. So yeah, I mean, kind of similar start to Aaron. I was in love with sports at a young age. Knew I always wanted to sort of end up in sports. At a certain age, I couldn't hit a fastball anymore. And even though my license says 6 foot, I'm probably more like 5'11". So I knew I wasn't gonna be able to play in the NBA or anything like that. So, you know, I had to pretty much explore another type of way to get into sports. So, you know, hopefully I won't outdate myself with this, but the movie Jerry Maguire came out in the, you know, mid to late 90s and loved the movie. And right away it was like, hey, you know, sports agent, what's that all about? Sports broadcaster was kind of next on my list. And you know, initially went to undergrad for sports broadcasting. It was always these areas and ancillary parts of the sports industry. And eventually I kind of became familiar with sports marketing and through an internship in college. And after I graduated undergrad from Penn State, which is where I currently work as well, I moved to New York. I worked in a media research company for a number of years, but at the same time, had a internship with the Big East tournament every year that it came to New York for 3 straight years. So got to really be behind the scenes, understand what sports marketing looked like, understand what corporate partnerships more specifically look like. And from there, wanted to go back, wanted to work in corporate partnerships full time. Every job or opportunity in the sports industry was entry level at that point. Didn't really know where to land, how to end up in the industry. Ended up going to grad school, and I felt like that would allow me to graduate and end up kind of on equal par to where I was prior to grad school. So went to NYU in 2012, graduated in 2014, landed my first job in corporate partnerships with IMG College, Florida Gators. Ended up getting a job a couple of years later with Penn State. Our two companies are merged now, Learfield and IMG. So I am now currently a senior manager of business development for Penn State.
Nice. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, guys, and thanks for having us. I want to echo what these guys said. It's good to be here. So my name is Russ White. I live out in Salt Lake City, Utah. I got into the sports business world pretty early. I fell in love pretty early with the business side of sports, and I think that I started looking at opportunities in high school and college of what I'd like to do if I was going to work in sports. And as we went through and right out of college, well, I got my degree in economics from University of Utah, and then took that and got a job with CBS Sports, selling TV advertising mostly here in Salt Lake. And I liked that. It was a nice introduction into the industry and the sales side of things. And then pretty quickly, within about a year, I got an opportunity with the Larry H. Miller Group, which owns the Utah Jazz, Salt Lake Bees, a few other. There were 8 sports and entertainment properties at the time, and that kind of threw me right into the middle of it. So I got to start as a manager, account executive, selling partnerships and sponsorship for those 8 properties. Enjoyed my nearly 5 years there. Learned a lot, and really corporate partnerships has always been, I think, a natural fit for me. It's very relationship based. It's you're involved in a lot of different areas of the organization, which is nice. And so I've never left. I've always stuck through corporate partnerships there, and been with Real Salt Lake going into the 5th season now. As of a few days ago, I'm open to new opportunities. I'm going to start looking. So, but it's been a little transitionary time, but this has been awesome. So, corporate partnerships, I like that you students have interest in it. It's the best part of the industry for sure.
Awesome. So I'm Vanessa Bryan. I'm actually from Southern California originally. Did my undergrad out there. A little bit of a different path here. Was actually philosophy and pre-law, major with a psych minor. Really started getting into kind of consumer behavior at that point. Worked actually at my alma mater for a few years in our alumni relations department. And I was coaching the cheer and dance programs there at the same time. And that's really when I had my light bulb moment of going into sports, and that it was the right fit for me. I wanted to take some of the marketing and PR work I was doing and transition that over into the sports world. So packed up my bags, moved to New York. Actually, same time Dan did. We did the master's program at NYU together. And then actually early on during my grad school days, got connected with an agency out there and really started to do sponsorship work for them. I kind of took my background and really headed up the experiential marketing arm in sports and entertainment for a media company, and working with the clients to figure out how do we bridge the gap between what they're doing in the media space and bring that to life. From there, moved over to WME IMG Consulting for Anheuser-Busch, overseeing their NFL team partnerships and their North America soccer portfolio back in 15, 16, and 17. And then in 2017, decided it was time to get out of New York and move to the team side and try something different. So used my network and put some feelers out and got a few job offers with teams and decided Cleveland was the right place for me. So I have been a manager of partnership activation going into my 5th season now here. And in addition to working with the partners that I do, I work with our business analytics team. So really figure out what does data and analytics look like for all of our partners and how are we measuring our partnerships and really proving that ROI for them.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the introduction, everyone. So something that I was really excited about today's panel is that all of you do work in corporate partnerships, but kind of in different umbrellas. We have partnership marketing, activation, business development, and so forth. So something I really wanted to know and our students were curious about is if you could all shed some light on kind of how these different areas of corporate partnerships all work together and like how they work as the partnership process as a whole. So Daniel, we'll start with you and we'll go Daniel, Russ, Vanessa, and Aaron.
Sure. So yeah, one of the things I find so interesting about corporate partnerships is sort of where the tentacles extend to. I mentioned before as an intern with the Big East, and my experience during that during those tournaments was to be on the court and run promotions on the court. That was very much marketing based and marketing focused. But what we were doing was running promotions for the brands that the sellers had sold to different companies. So for example, they did like a Reese's 3-throw contest. So we'd be down there for that. New York Life was the main sponsor. We were helping New York Life. So by doing the marketing, we were able to activate partnerships for large brands, but also meet executives with those companies. So that was kind of my first experience with it and how I understood how it all started to connect and work together. In the college world, it's a little bit different than the pro world. I'd say the biggest difference is we're kind of a third-party rights holder to some of these rights and these abilities to do things on campus. So we're constantly working with various departments, whether it's marketing, whether it's operations, whether it's our broadcast team, and we're trying to make sure that everything with a corporate partnership basically is done the right way through the right channels. So if we need something from football, we're going through a football admin team or a football operations team. If we need something on the field, maybe it's a game day marketing team. If it's somebody in our broadcast booth because we have the radio rights and they're doing a read, we're working with our radio team, ahead of time. So every single day of our job, we're working with somebody in a different department to gain approval, to execute something, to do something. And I guess the last thing I'll say is, with a company like Learfield, one of the nice things that we have, and probably one of the bigger reasons why we exist, is we have a corporate headquarters in Plano, Texas, and they have an integrated marketing team there that handles research and graphics and social media and digital and all kinds of campaigns, putting those types of things together for us on the back end. So that's a huge advantage to each of our universities, because then they don't have to hire that sort of staff internally to handle a lot of that for them. So that's another group that I'll add into the whole equation of how it kind of works on the back end. So when you talk corporate partnerships, you talk creativity, you talk a ton of assets, you talk a ton of different people handling different things. It's not just making a sale and executing a sale. So long answer, but hope everyone kind of understands what I was going for.
Yeah, that was great. And in fact, I'll hop right on that. The importance in relationship building in corporate partnerships is cannot be overstated. I mean, whether it's external relationships and how you build those to make a sale or build or continue keeping partners happy, or it's internal relationships are just as important, whether it's marketing, ticketing, operations. On the corporate partnership side, I think that the service team and the sales team, the more I guess intertwined they can be, the more they can work together on things, the easier it all becomes. So I know the example that you used, Daniel, of the Big East tournament and being on the floor and activating things. If you're on that service side of things and you don't know what's coming up or you don't know what's being sold, it makes things a lot more difficult to fulfill, which ultimately, that comes down to if you're keeping partners happy or not, if you're making more money or not. So I think building internal relationships is huge. I think treating everybody on your team, whether it's the analytics people, the service team, the business development and sales team, treat everybody with respect and show them that you value the work that they're doing. And when it comes down to needing something or needing to pull something together or get creative together, when you have that bond as a team, it makes everything a little bit easier.
Absolutely. Cannot echo enough what Dan and Russ are saying just about having to work with other people, whether that's internally or externally, especially on the partnership marketing side or activation side of things. There are 32 different NFL teams. I can tell you that we all operate pretty differently as far as our process goes. So I can speak to really how we go through a sales cycle. Our new business team will go ahead and prospect. We're actually all assigned different categories. So I work on all of our consumer packaged goods, beverages, whether it's non-alcoholic or alcoholic, our legalized sports betting and casino partners, and then have a few outliers kind of here and there. So that's really what I focus on. I have sales counterparts that focus on those categories as well. So they'll take a look at the category as a whole, figure out where we may have some gaps, go prospect. Once a lead is qualified, or we think there's a pretty good chance that, we could do business with them, I'll come in and start being a part of those meetings as well. So that once we sign a contract, it's a pretty easy transition. And then that salesperson will actually stay on throughout the life cycle of the partnership as well. So that they've got their finger on the pulse for the business and can, go do what they need to do. If it's, looking towards a renewal or maybe filling some gaps that we may have, or, getting ready to fill gaps that may come in the future. So we as a team are all staying on top of what's happening in the industry and in the category throughout the entire partnership. So once I really take over, I will dig into that contract, devise my plan, go through an entire onboarding process with the partner where I'm just digging into their business. I'm asking 1,000,001 questions of them to try to figure out how they want to go about the partnership and what's going to be of greatest value to them. And then I'll get to work with our internal teams and really bring that all to life and make it happen. And then, we're constantly analyzing how that's all working, so that once we're ready to start discussing the renewal, we know that we've done a great job, we've exceeded expectations, and it's really a no-brainer for the partner to come back.
Absolutely. So as everyone said, it's definitely relationship based, and our department is kind of broken into 3 sectors. So we have the activation side, which I'm on, we have the sales side, and then we have a strategy side. So really at the beginning, when we're prospecting new clients, it's sales and strategy, kind of coming up with that plan, what we can pitch them based on what inventory we have left. And then once they've made that deal, signed that contract, it kind of gets passed our way. But the salesperson is right there with us, never kind of leaving that account, so that we can continue to build that relationship from all sides. But once it does get passed to someone on the activation team, we kind of take over, do that whole onboarding process that Vanessa mentioned, and kind of really get their goals and see how we can use the assets that they have contracted to best promote the Clippers as well as their brand and get their goals achieved. And then, like everyone said, the internal part is so huge to what we do, because we need every single department to help us pull these partnerships off. We need them to have group sale opportunities. We need the social media teams buy-in. We need everybody from the top to the bottom. We need their buy-in and their support to make this great for every side of the organization. So it's definitely key to, like everyone said, have respect and really build those bonds, not only with the partners, but with your own internal departments, because they're the ones that kind of push everything across the finish line with you.
Yeah, definitely. So you guys, a lot of you already mentioned it, and coming up to the next question about the importance of relationship building. So basically you already answered how the important relationship building is, but can you share some insight on what are the best practices for cultivating those relationships and building your overall network in the industry? And we'll start with Russell and go to Russell, Vanessa, Aaron, and Daniel.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And again, if you've listened to the last couple of answers, it's probably the most important part of our job. I think there's a lot of different things. First off, take a genuine interest in the people that you're working with, whether it's internally or your partners externally. Get to know them as individuals outside of, just so-and-so from XYZ bank. Get to know them as a person, and let them know that you care about them, on a personal level as well. I think that's a good idea. I think that, some of the things I've done throughout my career, we'll go to breakfast or lunch with clients a lot, dinners here and there. Working at Real Salt Lake, I would take people to Jazz games. Worked at the Jazz, I'd take people to Real games. Just, other opportunities to spend time with people outside of structured work is really good. Something I've started doing the past couple of years, which has been really beneficial, I think, is treating taking care of people internally the same way I do partners externally. So lunches, I'll take our operations guy to lunch, or go grab lunch one day with our VP of marketing. Just making sure that when you are kind of the central figures, the corporate partnership department in most sports organizations, because that's where most revenue comes in, especially depending on the league and the team, but majority of the revenue comes through a lot of times corporate partnerships. So you need to be connected with everyone. So I think that those are some things that I've done over my time, is just treat everyone the same and try to let people know that you want to get to know them as an individual and you care about more than their check, and it'll help you with your relationships.
Russ, I love that you bring up the just kind of the recognizing people, appreciating the work that they're doing. when we're in office, we actually will do appreciation events for other departments if they've kind of been going above and beyond for us. We like to recognize the hard work that goes into things. I will, hopefully I'm allowed to say this, there's older students on here. I will often reward people with booze. Our creative department is fantastic. A lot of times we'll have to make asks of them, and I know they're working late nights, and I'll give someone a bottle of wine if I know they like something in particular. Also, the other piece to this is just going outside of your network. Like I will be requesting Aaron and Russ on LinkedIn when we're done with this, trying to stay in touch with them. I was on a panel a couple of weeks ago where I was able to find a common connection with somebody, and we're actually working on a project together now, figuring out how what she's doing can help some of the work I'm doing and vice versa. So really just having those real world conversations, staying in touch with people that you meet from all over, not just who you're working with day to day.
Absolutely. And I love that you're kind of rewarding those different departments. I'd love to kind of bring that over here at the Clippers because, like I said, they have such a huge part in everything we do. So that's awesome.
Happy to chat.
Yeah, it sounds like a great idea. I'm sure they would love it. But like everyone said, it's just so important to kind of find that human piece of it. So I know, especially now with everything being virtual, it's very easy to just be like, okay, this is about work because we're not seeing each other in person, but just really connecting on that personal level will help that relationship grow and develop. With one of my partners, I'm actually a massive Yankees fan and my license plate is 2G Jeter. And I found out that one of my clients' license plate is like D Jeter 2. And we're both from California, and so that was wild. So just kind of any conversations, you never know where you're going to find like values and things like that. So just always kind of, I would say, start with the person, and then that business relationship grows after that, and keep in touch with people. Like everyone said, that's how I got to where I am now. That networking piece is huge. And I'm sure as students, you hear that all the time, because I remember hearing it all the time. And I was nervous because it's like, how do I start that conversation with someone without it being awkward or seeming like I'm going to be asking, hey, can you hire me? But it's really about starting with that human piece and just thanking them for their time if you've met with them and things like that, and just showing your genuine interest in not only what they do, but as a person, and just being respectful of them. And then they'll see that you want to continue that relationship in a meaningful way and not just in a, hey, can you help me out way.
Yeah, that's definitely very insightful. And Aaron, you mentioned being virtual, and that's a perfect segue for our next question. Obviously, the COVID-19 pandemic has changed everyone's professional and personal lives at a moment's notice. So what a lot of our students were curious about is, how's that changed your professional career and partnerships in regards to talking to current partners and even trying to negotiate with new ones? And start with Vanessa, then go to Aaron, Daniel, and Russ.
Yeah, so 2020 was a little nuts once we really figured out what the landscape was going to look like for the NFL. We had to basically renegotiate about 80 to 90% of our contracts, trying to figure out what did those look like now? How could we still achieve the same goals and objectives in this new landscape? And a lot of it did involve digital. We were finding ways to, maybe take a draft party that we would typically do in person and now host it socially online. Just things like that. The really interesting thing that I think has come out of this for us is we created a lot of new digital programming, keeping in mind that our fans were craving this interaction with the team and really wanted to know what was going on behind the scenes, and couldn't do that in the typical ways that they were used to. So we created these programs last year, but they were so successful that we're actually keeping about 80% of them this year. So fans will have the option to either do it virtually or in person.
Quick question as a follow-up to Vanessa. Did any of your partners offer any pushback against some of your ideas for the make goods?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
There was one partner in particular. It was a beverage partner that, with us only having we were actually one of the lucky NFL teams that got to have about 20% of fans in stadium. But that meant 80% of their usual business was not going to be there. A big thing for why they do partnerships is to get these game day sales. And we weren't going to have that to offer to them last year. So there was a lot of pushback from them of how do we truly make this up for them. And ultimately, it's actually turning into a lot of things that we're doing in 2021 for them, where we can bring out retailers and host some of the people that they work with to hopefully help them really grow their share within spaces this year.
Oh, thank you. That's good.
Yeah,
We
and
were in a, oops, sorry.
oh, it's all good. Am I next? I'm not sure. Aaron, you want to go?
Sure, I can just piggyback off Vanessa because we were in a very similar situation with having to kind of rework all of those contracts, which for me was interesting because I had only been there a couple months. So I was kind of just getting to know their contracts as it was, and then kind of had to rework everything. But everyone was super patient with us. And like Vanessa said, also we started relying really heavily on digital and social and things like that, because that's kind of all you could do at this point. We're finally getting some fans back this Sunday, so that's exciting. But we really had to pivot and kind of just find unique ways to be able to offer that same value that they were meant to get originally in this new way. And sometimes there was definitely pushback because it's not apples to apples and things like that. And we just kind of had to roll with the punches and figure it out as best you could. And most partners were pretty good about it and understanding, because obviously we had no control over this. So it's just kind of getting creative and finding those new ways that you can add value, and then figuring out for those next seasons kind of what you're going to bring back that was from before and piecing together now. We have partners that are like, oh, I really like what we did for this season. So then it's like, we have a renewal that we were building a lot based off of past. And then it's kind of, you have to piece these together to see what they've learned over the past year and what kind of new interests they have as well.
Yeah, no, great points for both of you. And I didn't answer the last question about relationship building, but I'll group that into this. Even more reason why relationship building is important. These relationships that we have at all of our properties, at all of our teams, really helped get us through this last year. If the folks that we talk to on a day-to-day basis didn't trust us, and weren't willing to change their assets around for us, and weren't willing to talk about a new amendment to the agreement, or weren't willing to, as Vanessa said, push to 2021 to do more, no way we would have gotten to where we are with a lot of these partners. So that part of it is enormous. With that said, specific to your question, to this question, yeah, I mean, thinking outside the box, I think many of us can get lazy, right? Like, we can go into work and do the same thing every day, or in sales offer the same solutions every day to different partners, or sign here, or social media campaign here, or whatever it is. But what this last year allowed us to really do is think outside the box and come up with totally new concepts, totally new ideas. Most of our enter to wins are ticket giveaways in past years, where we couldn't do ticket giveaway enter to wins now. So we had to get creative and do different types of enter to wins that way also. So it was great. I'll piggyback off one thing Aaron said as well. With renewals, I had such a good situation last fall with some of our make goods that I was able to go to a partner early and start discussing what a renewal would look like. And what I did it with two partners actually. And the goal was basically to pull elements from 2019, 2018, things that they did then, along with some of the new things that we did in 2020. And really a year ahead of time, instead of waiting until next year for them to sign an agreement to add in these new assets, let's add those new assets in right now that you enjoyed from this past year. So a lot of good things can come of those types of situations. And I think oddly, as bad as last year was, or it currently is, and as much as what's unknown over the next couple months, if people trusted us and worked with us through that, they're hopefully going to be partners for life.
Yeah, if I never have to hear the term "make good" again and sit down with someone with that as the topic of the meeting, I will be the happiest man around. Man, it's been a mess, but honestly, I think it's been a good opportunity for me personally. And I'll just say, I think that the relationship side is very important in this. I think it kind of helped me go back to basics, right? So like we had to come up with ideas. We had to come up with, you usually have this activation or this signage, whatever. Let's find something that's valuable. But at the end of the day, we opened it up actually to where we told every partner we can renegotiate every asset in your deal. Like, let's get through this year. Let's get through 2020. we'll spend the off season and we'll go asset by asset. And if you want to shift to a more digital focus, if you want to do more, engagement, different ways, let's rethink it all. Because I think, like you just said, we get comfortable and kind of stagnant sometimes, or you have the ability to lean back and say, well, this has worked for someone else, let's do it for them too. But this gave us, I think the positive side is an opportunity to kind of reset the way that we think when we're selling, and obviously fulfilling, and the strategy behind it all. So that'll be good. But again, I don't like sitting down to meetings that are, make good conversation, or make good conversation number 9. I mean, most brands, I think, were very understanding, at least in our experience. We had a couple who took full advantage of it, and whether that's up to them. But I think the relationship side was able to save a lot of business, probably in most organizations.
Yeah, awesome. So another thing that caught my eye, that not only in reference to COVID-19, but shifting the partnership landscape, was digital consumption behavior by fans. And so I've noticed this on Sponsor United, which was created by Bob Lynch, that a lot of teams and a lot of sports properties are kind of catering to digital consumption. So what I was wondering, is there any specific highlights of digital consumption that any of you guys have noticed in the past year? And anyone can take this one from the start.
I'll hop in real quick with, go ahead, Dan, you go. Okay, I'll go. I'll hop in with something that we did. So we had a couple of partners that wanted to do more video series type assets over the past few years. So a couple years ago, we had a women's an NWSL team here, the Utah Royals. We just lost them. They moved to Kansas City this last off season with the ownership situation here in Salt Lake. But we partnered with an essential oils company here in Utah that wanted to do basically a video series highlighting these women, showing kind of a day in the life or a week in their life, through training, through them going to the coffee shop, all that type of things, and what they did outside of soccer. And it was a cool campaign. I mean, they came to us with it. We then kind of built the assets around the idea. It was a very sizable deal, and I think we came out 23 million views on the video series throughout the year. A 12 video series, which for us, it was advertised all over the freeway and here in Salt Lake. All of our social channels, and with the women's team, it had a national and international reach. And so it was a really cool kind of positive thing. And I think that a lot of teams are now looking at video series and things like that to kind of show players outside of the standard way that you see them playing the game, so that people can relate to them a little bit more. And that's something that you don't necessarily have to do in stadium. It can reach people when they're not there on a game day.
Yeah, just a couple of things I'll say real quick that we've done new this year that we never did in the past. We have digital games, so we started doing like prize wheels and games like that, like just a lot more than just enter to wins, and a lot more than just campaigns. We've just done a lot more on the digital game side. Our company, this will be foreign to a lot of people on here, but you know how the internet can track you and follow your cookies around and gives you ads if you say something, or if you're talking to a friend about something, it pops up on your phone later. At Learfield, we realized that we in a lot of cases, we own the website, we own maybe merchandise, we own all of these different ticketing, we own all of these different ancillary businesses that the university is subscribed to. So for example, at Penn State, gopsusports.com, we own the rights to that website. We can track every single person that goes to that website. So what we're now doing is anyone that's visiting that website, we have the ability to follow them around the internet. We never did that before, but now that's a whole new version of digital banner ads that we can track these folks. So just the way that we can connect with people and do things via digital is so much better and so much more advanced and so much more targeted than it ever was before. Melvin, I think you asked a question that Vanessa and Russ both answered in the chat, but I'll speak to that a little bit too. Research is so key. I mean, I've become such a nerd in the industry where like I wake up and I read an article too. Before I go to bed, I read an article too. Oftentimes I read those articles before I read like my fantasy articles and my, whatever article. I mean, truly, I just like dive in and love it. And maybe it's because I've now worked in the industry for, over 7 years or close to 7 years now, but it's just one of those things where I love, and the reason I related to this question is if I read something that the Jazz are doing or the Clippers are doing or the Browns are doing or any other team, it's going to be something I make a quick note of in my phone, and it's going to be something I probably take back to my team. So just really staying on top and understanding what everyone does, whether that's from a sponsorship standpoint or just a creative standpoint, is just so key to everything we do.
Aaron or Vanessa, if you have anything to add, then that's great. If not, we can move on.
I can just add one quick thing. I think going back to that, making sure it works for both the partner and the team. We did a cool thing with Chick-fil-A starting when the bubble games were happening that was driving people to app, because that's really big for us right now. So we created a bingo game that Chick-fil-A kind of owned on our app, that if you get full bingo, you could win various prizes, a Clippers prize pack, as well as like a Chick-fil-A gift card and things like that. So everyone loves free stuff, of course, but it also kind of helped us drive to our app, and we wanted to kind of make it that second screen experience while you're watching the game, since you can't be there and playing all the games that are in arena usually. So that was a really unique opportunity, and Chick-fil-A ended up loving it and they want to continue with it. So we're kind of figuring out if that's something we can do moving forward, but it was a success on both ends for us.
Great. So something else that we wanted to talk about today was social justice has been in the news a lot. So it's been on the forefront of a lot of players' minds and front offices' minds. So what's something that the partnerships division of sports has been doing to kind of cater to the wants and needs of the players and the fans alike? And Aaron, we could start with you for this one and then go to Daniel, Russ, and Vanessa.
Yeah, absolutely. So we lean heavily on our community team because they kind of do our player relations. And then we just wanted to be really careful about not just slapping partners on things, because for things like this, they're so important and so pertinent, and you want people to pay attention to really what matters. So we're just being really particular about if it's a genuine connection to things, then absolutely we can move forward with it. But if it's just a partner kind of wanting to slap their logo on it to look good, we kind of want to shy away from that, just because that's not the best look for everyone, and that's not going to get the message across in the best way possible. So I think just being really careful and then really letting our community team kind of lead that charge, and then we can kind of see, oh, this might fit there, and working with them on that front.
Sorry, I missed the question. I was typing my LinkedIn number, my LinkedIn name in, and I totally missed it.
No worries at all. So we're just talking about how social justice has kind of been on the forefront of a lot of players' minds, a lot of fans' minds, and kind of how does partnerships play a role in kind of like perpetrating this message out and kind of catering to the needs of the players and the fans?
Sure. And hey, it's okay to be honest, right, guys? I'm not just going to BS an answer to you. Definitely something that's very relevant. College athletics is a little bit different than the pros in this regard. I don't know if anyone's read a number of articles about that, but in the pros, it's pretty well known, about what it's going to look like when the national anthem occurs, for example, and how that's going to take place, and teams being on the sidelines. I think college basketball is a little bit more relevant than maybe some of the other sports, as usually they do the introductions and then all that occurs. With college football, a lot of times that'll happen when the team is still in the locker room. So not as affected in that regard. It's not as much as a thing where in the pros where they're standing on the sidelines. But nonetheless, I mean, I'll echo exactly what Aaron said, and it is so key to make sure that you don't partner with anyone that you shouldn't partner with, have anyone express a message that they shouldn't express, or that the majority wouldn't be interested. But on the other side, you also have to be a little bit sensitive to, unfortunately, the group of fans that may be resistant to that sort of change, or may be resistant to that sort of message. I mean, there's that whole side of it too. So not to say that we've done one or the other more than the other, but definitely there's kind of two sides to it that you have to look out for. And I think in general, I can speak for Penn State, but I would think that all of our teams or organizations that we work for, probably want to always send the right message and do the right thing, more often than not, even if it does unfortunately piss, certain people off.
Yeah, it's been a super delicate topic, I think, for everybody. And with us, mentioned, I guess, lean on the other side a little bit, like you just mentioned, Daniel. We had a lot of business at Real Salt Lake. We lost a good amount of business over some of the protests and things like that. But we also had other people, new businesses who came in because of the way that we reacted to that. And then also, current partners who spent more money with us. So I think that seeing both sides, there's an effect on both sides of any of these issues. But as an organization, I think that most organizations feel, we want to support the players and support real change. And I think making sure that partners are aligned in the proper way. I know, Aaron, you mentioned the community team and how important they are. Those guys are, they're right behind operations. I'd say community is probably number 2 of who you need to take care of internally. Operations are always first because they're the high maintenance ones. But then you move on to community, because they do so much. They really are kind of the lifeline between the club or the organization and the people. And that's what partners want to tap into in one way or another. So, but I think, being cognizant of, I think that we all can be more educated or continue to be educated on what's going on in the social justice side of things in this country. And then just find ways to marry the causes together and the brands together with something they want to help change.
So just want to address, this actually started for us back in 2017 when we really started to get involved with things. Once the players started protesting in the NFL back in 17, we did lose a few partners. We lost some season ticket holders as well. We're in Cleveland, very split politically here. So our ownership group and our community relations team decided the best thing to do was to first talk to those players, figure out what they wanted, what they were looking for, what they needed out of this to feel comfortable still being a part of this organization. So we started with that approach. The first thing that really happened was a regular conversation with our local police coalition. And we actually had a few partners get involved in that just from a hosting and donation standpoint, providing food and drinks for these meetings that were happening. And then really helping support any initiatives that came out of those conversations.
Awesome. Thank you. Aaron, I know you have to run in a few minutes, so feel free if you have any final thoughts to give to our students. The floor is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I have to jump. We just found out recently that we have fans back, so we're all kind of figuring out I have to run to the arena to check on some things. We have limited opportunity because of COVID. So, but I would just say, you guys are in the right place. NYU did wonderful things for me and my career, and kind of was a great jumping point. And just listening to these kind of things, you're already doing the right things. So keep in touch. Feel free, add me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer any more questions, and just keep kind of expanding your network. And like Dan said, kind of just reading articles is one of the best things you can do, and seeing what other teams are doing is so huge in this industry, and kind of piecing together different parts of the sports industry puzzle. So just keep educating yourselves and reaching out to people, and keeping your interest and showing people that you're interested, because I think just showing that, people will want to connect with you. So thank you so much for having me. And like I said, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Aaron. So Phil, moving on with the next question is, what are some of the best and even some of the worst experiences that you guys have had working in the sports industry and in partnerships in general? And whoever wants to hop on this question first, feel free.
I'll say one of the coolest things that I was a part of last year. We hosted the Challenge Cup for the NWSL. So that was the first kind of return to play in sports after everything kind of paused for COVID. And it was kind of the first bubble situation. They had our training facility out here in the stadium, and we played, it was 30 or 20 something games total. And it was kind of the first thing back. And to be able to, we didn't have fans, but you still had fans, right? Fans are always allowed. Partners want to go, they can go. And so we had the safety protocols in place, and it's something I think that we're used to now. But I thought it was fun to kind of be a part of, we had fans back at the end of last year. And so to go through seeing people come back and the safety steps that are necessary, but just the joy that comes when people are at a stadium or at an arena enjoying a sporting event. I think that's one of my favorite things. Every time I can look out and see people having a good time, no matter what else, is going on in their life. That's one of the coolest things I think about being in sports.
Yeah, sports is really cool to work in, right? I mean, there's just we're doing something that so many people dream to work in an industry that so many dream to work in, and some of the coolest experiences I've had. I mean, I've been able to travel on our team charter with the team to away games. I've been, able to be at bowl games with partners of mine. I've been able to be on the field during some big moments. I mean, the whiteout game where, you know, I don't know if anyone remembers, but Penn State blocked a field goal against Ohio State and returned it down the length of the sideline. I mean, I am actually on the video on the screen, like jumping up and down on the sideline, like literally at like the 3-yard line as he's entering the end zone. So these types of experiences, I mean, and everyone can kind of speak to that with their various teams they work with, big or small. Power one of the big leagues, one of the major leagues, or college, or even a minor league, right? Like those kinds of things always happen. It's what sports is all about. So that part of it is just memories that I'll never forget the rest of my life. That's something, I guess, maybe on the personal side. On the professional side, just being able to put together just some incredible deals and see them come to life, with corporate partnerships. I mean, I love corporate partnerships for the creativity that's behind it, the relationship building that's behind it. Walking into a stadium and seeing the sign. I mean, I think sometimes, like, hey, maybe on a non-game day, if I bring a family member into the stadium, or if somebody's watching it on TV and they see something that's TV visible pop up, I know that I had a hand in that, and I can tell that family member or that friend or whatever that I was part of that. And it's a small little humble brag, but nonetheless, it's kind of cool to be a part of those kinds of experiences, and put those things together live for all of our fans to see.
Yeah, for me, it's really about the work. When you can find that moment of, really capturing lightning in a bottle and creating something special, it's an amazing feeling. For me, the highlight thus far from that standpoint really has been the Victory Fridge promotion we were able to do back in 2018 for the Browns. If you guys aren't familiar, the Browns were 0-16 in 2017. My first season with the team, it was rough. So we were really looking for a way to celebrate when the team won again, and bring partners into that. So we worked with Bud Light, who is one of our partners, to build out this promotion where we have these locked beer fridges in a number of bars and restaurants across the Cleveland area, as well as a few in stadium, that opened and provided free beer for fans to help us celebrate once we won again. So this quickly went from, this local program, doing something fun for our fans, to this nationally, and in some cases internationally recognized promotion that we were doing with Bud Light. So it was a ton of work, but a lot of fun, and just being able to pull off something it was really sensitive. We were talking about 0-16. As an organization, you don't want to embrace that. So being able to figure out how do we work around this in a way that makes it fun and exciting was just amazing feeling. But then you run into circumstances where you really run a risk as well. At the end of the day, these are live events. I remember back in my agency days, working with a Giants alum, and bringing a really cool experience to a couple fans. And we were filming something, and the alum decided to run into the middle of the field with these fans and my camera crew. And I've got somebody from the league and somebody from the team, one in each ear, yelling at me about how they're not supposed to be doing this. But, sometimes when you're in those situations with live events and you're working with people, you never know what's going to happen. So you just kind of have to be ready for anything.
Totally. So the final question from me is, a lot of our students, you were sitting in their seats not too long ago, looking for jobs. So what are some pieces of advice you have for those students right now that are watching this? We'll start with Vanessa, then go to Daniel and Russ.
Yeah, internships and networking. I cannot speak highly enough for those two pieces. Work with your professors right now. Honestly, an adjunct faculty member at NYU was how I got my first job, and then was able to parlay that into future career opportunities. And things like this, keep in touch with people that you're speaking with. You never know when the next opportunity is going to come up and where it's going to present itself from. And just keep working hard. We've all been through the grind of starting from the ground up and having to do the dirty work in this industry. But that is how you're going to get noticed and get recognized and ultimately start working your way up through the industry. So don't be afraid to do it. And like I said, just reach out to us, keep in touch with people that you're meeting. We're happy to help. And I will actually pass along, we have some events internships coming up that I just found out about a couple days ago. So Dr. Kelly, I'll pass that along to you and you can share with some students.
All right, perfect, that works.
Great. So two pieces of advice. One is definitely more professional. The other is, I think, one of the questions that was asked. I think Fatty, you asked it about empty promises. Honesty, right? So like that carries over with who you are as people, to how you treat your friends and family, to who you are at in your job place, right? So that's more of just a general thing. But answering that question really, really quickly, being honest with partners is just so important, right? I mean, I always strive to do that. My VP ad nauseum reminds us to always do that, especially with the make good conversations. I think I answered in one of the questions, we went through with Big Ten, a start, stop, restart situation last year. We knew quickly it was going to be no fans. Other teams had fans. We didn't know if it was going to be, I think they maybe had 10 games, and then it was like down to 8 games or no games, and then it was 8 games. We knew nothing. We didn't know what anything was going to look like, but we also couldn't just say, hey, it's going to be 100,000 fans. And I can't tell people for this year it's going to be 100,000 fans. So just being upfront and honest with everyone from the start is going to be able to set those expectations. So that's just a general piece of advice. When it comes to professional advice, what Vanessa said about networking, I can't emphasize it enough. When I went back to grad school, I decided that I was going to really use those 2 years to network. And I wanted to attend every panel. I wanted to, every class that someone spoke to, I wanted to send them an email thanking them after. If you're not doing that, you're making mistakes. I mean, truly, use grad school to do that, or even undergrad school. If there's folks on here in undergrad school, do that in every way. I didn't do it enough in undergrad because I didn't think it was important. I thought I'd graduate and I'd get a job and I'd be fine. But there's so many of you today, and I'll put this out there, that will maybe thank us, that will maybe request to be a friend on LinkedIn, but won't do anything more than that. And the only way you're ever going to get a job in this industry or make a connection with any of us is to work hard at making that connection and do something out of the norm. Do something creative that others won't do. And throughout the whole way, I mean, that's how we sell, right? As sellers, I mean, I have to do things to get a new partner that are different than everybody else. And as students, I encourage you to do the same thing with people like us. We are willing to help. I promise you, we are. We're all taking days out of our schedules, or hours out of our schedules, not days, hours out of our schedules to do this right now for all of you. So we are willing to help you, beyond this phone call. So, please reach out to us. Let us know how we can help, and make sure to make a meaningful connection when you do so.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with all of that. And I'm looking forward to the LinkedIn invites. That's like the best part of my day, is when I get on and see. No, but I think, you guys are doing a lot of things right. I mean, you're at NYU, so you're at the right place. The alumni network there, and what the professors do for you. And obviously, Dr. Kelly has been incredible for our entire cohort in the global sport program. But just me personally, I still reach out to him. I think I reached out a couple of days ago. We chatted about some opportunities and making some introductions and things. So I think that network is super important, and take advantage of the alumni connections, take advantage of panels and things like this. And was it September that we're back on campus? So you guys are back in September. Make sure you go to all of the panels and spend time around people. Take the time that you've dedicated to this program, and network as much as you can. And then I guess and this is on a personal level too, but definitely professional. I don't know if you guys watched Ted Lasso, kind of the greatest television show that's ever been created the past little while. There's one episode in there where he talks about a quote that he saw. It says, be curious, not judgmental, but like be curious about things. Try to learn more, dive in, find that crazy brand that, Manscaped comes to mind. This brand that came out of nowhere and is doing all these crazy advertising, and they're everywhere. Do the research, spend a little bit of time just learning the industry, and you'll find those brands and dive in, figure out what it is they're looking to do. And you can come up with some pretty fun partnerships. But I think that always continue learning, utilize that network that you have, and just keep doing what you're doing, and definitely reach out to us. I mean, we're resources. We are taking time out of our day right now to do this, and I think all of us are probably pretty excited to be a part of it. So it's these are the types of things that we love in this industry, and so use us as well as much as you can.
Awesome, guys. This has been very informational, and I'm sure all of our students are very excited that you guys hopped on today and you shared your LinkedIn profiles in the chat. So I'm sure you guys will get a lot of LinkedIn connects within the coming days. So if there's no more questions from the students, I'll kick it back to Dr. Kelly to finish us up here.
All right. Thank you to Russ, to Vanessa, and to Daniel, and of course to Aaron for the great words today and the great insight into your career paths and corporate partnerships. Thank you to our host, Kevin Gaudio, and to everyone out there watching. We look forward to bringing you more information and more ideas as far as corporate partnerships, as well as our different topics for the Insider Industry Series. Talk to you soon. Take care.
Thanks.